Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be with you today to talk about something that has been bothering me for a while. I think we are losing our most important asset as South Africans. I think we are losing hope. On my way back from a trip, I took one of the ride-hailing applications and I was speaking with the driver and him noticing that I had some information on the issue. He turned to me and he said, "Hey, big bro, please, can you advise me if, for example, a young person like myself wanted to travel abroad, would you advise for the person to go to Europe or to go to Canada, or which of those?" And I thought about it for a while, and in my usual indirect way to respond, I told him, it depends. It depends on a lot of factors, really. And I was able to have a long conversation with him about this subject. But I think the main issue here is really the fact that we are losing hope, like I mentioned earlier. Our young people do not have a growth and development mindset, which is really important for us to create progress in our societies. And especially for us in Africa, where 3 out of 5 young persons is under the age of 35, this mindset is really, really important for us to have. And without this mindset, it's really difficult because people feel ill at ease where they are. Their ambitions are much bigger than their environment. Mentally, it makes them to have a really, really difficult time living with their environment. And for this to change, we need to be able to take certain actions, to do a few things to make young people to feel at ease, to make young people to feel at home, to feel comfortable where they are. These actions are not the hand-on or be-all. They will not cure the problems that our young people face tomorrow, but they will be a start. And because this issue is a complex one, it's one that a lot of people face, it's a dire situation. The loss of hope is really something that is so important. But the solutions that I'm going to propose could help. The first solution would be to provide an enabling environment to our young people. Young people currently feel they are not at home. How do they channel these creative expressions, all the productive energy that they have in them? Where are the avenues for them to take this creative energy and channel it into very productive endeavors that will help themselves, that will help their societies, and that will help the community to grow? These avenues are not there. You see a lot of young people laying on the streets. You see a lot of young people waking up in the morning and the first thing they are sitting around playing drugs or drinking with their friends and having a good time chatting. These avenues for these young people to channel this creative energy that they have is really lacking. How do we make sure that these creative energies can go into the right place? How do we make sure that we are not wasting the positive and creative energy that our young people have? How do we channel it into the right side and not cause a situation where this powerful energy is being channeled into the wrong or harmful things that is going to harm our environment in the long term? This is something to think about. And I think the first solution would have to be around that. How do we create avenues? How do we create platforms for people to express themselves, for people to take that creative energy, that productive energy, to build themselves, to build their countries, and to build our continent? The second solution is about voice. How do we make sure that young people's voices are heard? How do we make sure that they feel that they are part of their communities, both socially, politically, and economically? Because currently, I feel very strongly that young people's voices are not being heard across the continent. They are sidelined, and Africa being such a patriarchal and ageist society, young people have a really difficult time finding their place. For example, you sit among elders, and if you try to express yourself a lot of times, even though some of this is unspoken in many circumstances, you notice that people look at you funny. Like, who is this young person trying to talk when they're elders here? And I know this is a deep issue that we need to go more on to try to improve our societies, but this is an issue that needs to be tackled. How can we make sure young people's voices are heard? How can we make sure that they are able to put themselves in front of the community, to share the ideas that they have? Old people, of course, have a lot of experience, but I believe in the world of today, with artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, and so many other avenues on the internet to get information at the touch of a fingertip, to get a trove of information that a human being cannot even finish reading in their lifetimes, and even if they added more lifetime, they will not be able to finish so much information. I think with this being taking in, young people need an avenue to test out new ideas, to test out new theories in their communities. So if their voices are not being heard and they are being sidelined in conversations, it creates a really difficult environment, and it perpetuates a system where the same old ideas are being recycled, because of course the older people think their older ideas are better, and they are not giving the chance for the younger ones to come up with new ideas, to come up with new theories and test them in the community. This, I think, is really important to feel that sense of hope in your community, to feel that connection to your community. And this is another thing that's lacking. And another solution would have to revolve around making young people even more active, even more vocal in their community. My third solution still ties back to what I talked about, age. Just as much as young people have a lot of ideas in their head and a lot of theories they need to test, I think they also need to be supported by those who have done things, who have built things in that same community. And I think that is not being done as much as it should across Africa. We have a lot of older and more experienced persons who have all this knowledge that they share with the young generation, but there are no platforms for this to happen. And I feel generally that the older generation shies away from taking up some of these responsibilities, from being there to influence and to mentor the next generation. God knows why they do this, why they shy away. It could be for multiple reasons, which I think we may get into in another video. But I think in general, making sure that the older generation mentors the younger ones is really important. And as leaders, we need to create the platforms for this to happen. And without this happening, young people listen to voices which I would say they should not be listening to, because these voices are throwing around generic information online. These voices abroad, the US, UK, in Europe, they give young people ideas that are not context relevant. So you have all these ideas in your head that you think may work in your community, but these ideas need to be tested. These ideas need to be put in the context, and you need someone who has been in that context, who has built things in that context, to be able to guide you, to be able to show you the path and hold your hand, give you the courage to say, hey, you can do this. We need to have local influencers, people who have built and done here. We need that. Instead of course, listening to generic advice from all over the world, we need to listen to people who have built and done in our communities. We need more leaders, we need more mentors to step up and hold the hand of a younger person. That, I think, is my third solution, and it's really important. Lastly, in addition to having mentors holding the hands of younger people, I think we need mass education programs, mass re-education programs all over the continent to upskill, reskill, make sure that young people are able to find new jobs, as well as those who are out of jobs are able to be retrained in new skills, in new sectors where they can find new jobs, in the new economy. We have to begin to transition away from the older industries and sectors and find new jobs in the new industries. And this revolves around training, this involves around upskilling and reskilling, and making sure that we can tap into all the expertise, the African expertise in the African diaspora, to make sure this happens. We have a lot of expertise, many of whom have studied abroad, who have studied in Europe and America, who have knowledge that they can also support the younger ones to test. But just as much, we also have people who have built locally. And these two forces need to join to train our young people, to give them the skills that they need to have to enable them to find new jobs, to enable them to be productive in their communities. And this involves a lot of education. And I mentioned earlier a mass education program, mass education and mass re-education. How do we make sure that people have the skills to do what they need to do? And I guess this goes as well into making sure that young people have the chance to practice some of these skills, because at the end of the day, it's not just about gaining skills, but it's also about how do you put some of these skills into practice. That would be internship programs, that would be volunteering programs, and having companies taking risks on young people to give them the experience that they need to be able to thrive and to build and to start careers in sectors that maybe they are interested in. This is a big part of the solution. Lastly, I think we need a bit of a mindset shift as well, away from the blame game, away from giving responsibility to the other person. The last solution, which I think is just as important, is to have young people themselves take responsibility for themselves and their lives, to understand that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to be your guardian angel, to hold your hand and take you out of poverty and take you out of joblessness and take you out of all the difficult challenges that you're facing in your life, out of all the difficult challenges that your community is facing. Nobody is coming to do that. So you have to take responsibility for yourself and work hard, build the ideas that you have in your head. You have beautiful ideas in your head. Take that, put it into practice, test it in your communities. Many of them will fail, but some will succeed. And that is how building is done. Encourage others who are doing the same. They will start small, but it doesn't mean that they cannot move mountains in the future. Encourage, help them build, support peers, join together as groups to work towards common goals. This is how it is done. This is how other people in other communities, in other countries have been able to do it to build their communities. You need to take responsibility for yourself, for your life. As they say, the government is basically the people. So you are part of that government that you are waiting for. And without you doing your part, it will be impossible to get the results that you're expecting. I'm going to repeat again, nobody is coming to save you. Not the World Bank, not the IMF, not your government, not the African Union. They can support the efforts that you're putting in. They can support you to get to where you need to go. But at the end of the day, it's about you, and it's about taking responsibility for your life and saying, I can do this, and working with others in your community to build. These solutions, like I said earlier, would not radically change the face of Africa overnight, but they are the start. They are the seed that, if planted, would lead to something greater in the future. And that something greater is for young people to regain the hope that they've lost. It's for our societies to have productive people, to have people ready to sacrifice and die for it, instead of losing life, losing limb, losing dignity in the Mediterranean or in the Sahara and being turned into modern day slaves, trying to get to greener pastures abroad in Europe and America and the US. I believe that this can be done. This will not be achieved by large political speeches or by using emotional blackmail to say, you need to love your country and be patriotic and all of that. That would not work, because we have the new generation of young people who have a lot of information, who have access to information at the speed of light. And all the ideas that used to work in the past would not work now. We need new ideas, we need new approaches, and we need young people as well to take responsibility for themselves, to stop wasting time. Your life is short. Don't waste it scrolling endlessly on social media or engaging in very unproductive vices. Your community needs you. You need you to do what you need to do to take yourself to the next level that you dream of, that you envision. Stop wasting time. I'm Bamai, and I'll see you in the next episode.